Tonight, we begin with a crisis in the classroom. President Donald Trump signing an executive order calling for the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education.
So in order for this to happen, the education secretary says, quote, they'll return authority over to the states and local communities instead. But what does that really mean for us in PA? CBS 21's Elise Person looking into that. And she has what both sides of the aisle think could be the biggest impact.
Shutting down the U.S. Department of Education sends an unacceptable message that education is no longer a national priority.
We need to do something different. It seems radical and change is hard, but I think this is a real good step in the right direction.
Groups on either side of the aisle have contrasting opinions about President Donald Trump's executive order to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. Those opposed to the move say this could impact federal funding to Pennsylvania schools.
What happens to the $1.6 billion in federal funding that flows from the Department of Education into Pennsylvania's public schools? We believe that this executive order has put that funding at risk.
Those mandates are estimated at costing Pennsylvania about $1 billion more than the federal funding that they get. And so this is a real opportunity for Pennsylvania, for educators who are doing a yeoman's job in many cases and working really hard, to actually have the resources and the funding and the ability to make local and state decisions that previously were being made in Washington.
So this next to me is the Pennsylvania Department of Education. This executive order, it wouldn't change the role this department has in supporting Pennsylvania schools. However, some argue that it might make the department's job harder, while others argue the exact opposite.
We ran a calculation and determined that there are about 7,000 positions in public schools that are funded with this federal funding.
There's not a single educator that's hired or employed by the Federal Department of Education. And so when you think about what is about 5,000 employees, I think, that work at the Federal Department of Education, if we could take those 5,000 employees or the dollars that are being spent on those employees that are just sending mandates or who knows what they're doing, and actually put it in the classrooms of Pennsylvania and these other states, our surrounding states, I think it's a plus.
Reporting in Harrisburg, Elise Person, CBS 21 News.
So to completely eliminate the Department of Education, 60 U.S. senators would need to agree, which is highly unlikely. However, it could still be severely stripped down by the administration.
All right, so knowing that, we went into Face the State this week, and it's one of the big topics we're discussing this time.
I think it's $229 billion all in every year. For what? The lowest scores amongst fourth graders. It gets even worse when they get to eighth grade. Spending all this money, what did we get out of this in the end? We got DEI policy, and that $229 billion can be sent to the states where they can do so much better with it.
I hear that as a surface argument, but I think that to date, their actions on firing, on executive orders, have shown a lack of good faith and indeed a lack of prudence.
The people that send it to us, that determine it and send it to us, are no longer there. How are we going to get it?